Hello, and welcome to the review of Shogun Episode 3. Gut reaction reviews are normally quite short, but we've decided to do slightly longer than normal ones every week from now on with my esteemed panel of guests. We won't be on for a super long time tonight, somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour, so it's not a huge commitment of your time if you're just tuning in. Episode 3 dropped on Tuesday, and all of us watched it with anticipation. Would it be as good as episodes 1 and 2? How is it all shaping up? Well, we'll find out pretty soon. First, my guest, who has promised to be completely fluent in Japanese by the time we get to the last episode. It's Blue Collar Loser. Good to have you, sir.
I can barely speak English half the time.
Well, I figured if you drank enough alcohol, you'd be fluent in Japanese. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? If you go on IMDb, check this out. Until yesterday, the highest rating on IMDb was June 2, averaging at 9 out of 10. Wow. However, today, that has been superseded by Shogun, which now is 9.2.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. Fantastic. Well, let's hear what our rest of our panel have to say about it. From the northern wastes of Mordor, it's Northern English Bastard. How are you, sir?
I am fine, my good sir.
Great. He's watching this show too.
Are you in full samurai regalia as you're doing that voice? Because I'm picturing you with one of these helmets on now.
Yeah.
Yes, made out of nice authentic cardboard, I should say. Authentic cardboard.
Yeah.
Japanese cardboard.
Fantastic. Well, good. That's going to definitely look as good as the costumes in the show. And then we also have coming back for the third time. It's Leroy Peters in the house.
What's up?
How are you, sir?
I'm good. Hey Lance, I loved your opening music.
For the Gary Bolter from Outcast Australia did the intro for that. So I must give the compliments. I must give the compliments where they're due. And we got quite a full house tonight. Last but by no means least, the man with the Dalek microphone. It's Darth Plato. How are you, sir?
Hey, apologize for my microphone right now.
How you doing, Darth Plato?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Nice to be on again.
Does keep it entertaining. Now, we had 2 episodes to cover last week. We're only covering one this week. I want to be off by 11 o'clock, mainly because I want to go and play my American Civil War game, and I'll be streaming that pretty soon after this. But that and other reasons. But I'm sure an hour will be enough time to cover one episode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the plot briefly, and then I'm going to come to each of you in turn, kind of how we did it last week. So please don't jump in and interrupt while I just go over the plot. Let's just say hello to the people in the chat. First of all, we've got definitely not John Travolta in the house, Vincent Vega, which is great. Fandad Menace is here. It was tense as... There we are. The big hairy man himself, Cannoli Sasquatch, is in the house. We love Cannoli. And I had the pleasure of being on Sassy Sasquatch's channel last Saturday evening. Was just sort of came on as a late guest, and we all had quite an emotional conversation, which actually was, was nice. And please do check out her streams and her channel. And also, of course, the Cannoli Connection for all advice on Italian food and film-related products. We have Keith E. in the house. So we do love Keith E. Jamalama's here as well. Nearly missed you, Jammer. Sorry about that. Okay, great. Let's go. Let me just outline the plot. I've got some notes and shit here, so I'm just going. So, Shogun episode 3 opens with discussions with Toranaga, sort of basically conversing about the previous night's events. For those people that have seen episode 2, there's an assassination attempt presumably on Toranaga, but actually on Anjin-san. Toranaga ensures loyalty by promising the required province in exchange for the protection of Anjin in the village to one of his cohorts. And there's a rather nice scene pre-titles where he just says, "Watch the morning with me" as the sun comes up. I really liked that moment.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the next scene, which is the priests and Rodriguez. And it's interesting that in the 80s version, the priests were a little bit more pantomime and definitely sort of very much played as villains of the piece. Here, they're a little bit more layered and complex. Again, I like this. Lord Ashido arrives as basically Anjin-san and various lords are leaving. And he inspects the convoy because there are two ladies being carried. And he realizes Lady Kiri is in one of them. But this is all a ruse to get Toranaga out of the palace, and using a distraction technique, they succeed. So the group leaves, and then they get stopped again at the gate. But Anjin causes a distraction, a scene which I thought was much better than in the 1980 original. We learn that Hiro Katsu / also known as Buntaro, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the husband of our main female love interest. Not long after they've left the castle, we go into Game of Thrones director of photography territory as the screen gets incredibly dark and you can almost see nothing. And then there's an ambush. Various people are killed. People come to realize Toranaga is actually in this little convoy, so to speak, and he's escaping. Various survivors rush down to the port. There's a ship waiting. Buntaro sacrifices himself. We don't see him die, but it's pretty obvious that he has. And after a bit of negotiating about who's going to be on what ship and an attempt to leave Anjin behind in exchange for being allowed to escape, he proves himself a worthy seaman and actually manages to avoid the rocks before the bigger ship before him. Both of them escape. And then Toranaga, as a reward, decides he needs to be taught how to dive into the sea, and kind of finishes with Toranaga and Anjin having a dive into the water. Now, I'm going to prefix any criticisms I have with the following statement. So for those people watching, please listen. My criticisms are minor. This is still brilliant television. And when I say, for me, this is the weakest episode so far, this is still way better than the best episode of Masters of the Air. So we're talking a different level of quality of TV. This episode is still very much an 8.5 out of 10 for me. That may change as we discuss, but it's still very, very good. But there were a couple of things that I found annoying. One was that when we get into this kind of scenes that are all shot in the dark, there seems to be this trend by DOPs to go for the absolute minimum lighting. And I actually had to close all the curtains in the house and shut things off in order to see everything. It was quite difficult, and even then I couldn't see everything. So I did feel like we were at the Battle of Winterfell for a moment. It's a minor niggle, not a massive niggle. So it's a different director on this episode. She's only directing this episode, and I have to say I'm quite glad about that. But everything served a purpose. Every scene was relevant. All the political stuff is amazing. My favorite scene was actually when the guy goes back into the palace, Toranaga's kind of ally, and he tells Ashido that Toranaga is basically resigning from the council, and then the council realizes it can't make any decisions because it's written into law that there's got to be 5 of them. That scene was so brilliantly underplayed by all of the actors in it. I think that scene alone just showed why this show is so good. So yeah, it was weaker than the other 2 episodes, but caveat that with a week episode of this is still amazing, so it was, my criticisms are minor. They are minor. It's still very, very good. Blue Collar, just give me your overall thoughts and any criticisms that you have or things you liked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I got to play in the background now, my iMac, but like this episode on my TV, I didn't notice it being too dark. I'm not sure. Like for me, the lighting was fine, but maybe it's because, like you said, the drapes were on in your house.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it was I had the TV mounted on the bed, and unfortunately at that angle, it's kind of to my left. It was catching the light coming through and it was a very bright day outside for about an hour. We get an hour of sun in England a day. So, but yeah, these criticisms may well be unfounded. But I did find it pretty dark.
I did like. I mean, we're episode 3 in. Well, we get our first opening, which I thought the opening. I mean, we're old enough to remember the time where people would sit down and actually watching opening. Sometimes the opening was part of the TV show, like certain TV shows. The opening, like Game of Thrones, every opening was different because it would tell you what's going on in the episode, and so like you actually like you look forward to watching the opening. So I did like the opening, and I thought it was fantastic, and just much like what happens with Dune or other things. I'm not going to go watch the first show, read the book, because if I do that right now, subconsciously, we all do it where, you know what, I do like this, but the book did X, Y, and Z. The first show in 1980s did X, Y, and Z. I'll do that stuff after the show is over. So I'm going into this show completely blind. I have no idea what to expect. I'm loving the characters, loving the action. Again, with the makeup and the detail from every little stitch and their face to the samurai swords, everything feels authentic. It feels expensive. Like I treat this show now like a weekly movie.
Yeah. It does have a very cinematic feel. Did you have a favorite scene?
Boy, it's hard. I'd say probably with Blackthorn, and I keep forgetting his name, but Tornado, the whole diving sequence, just because he's like they're building. You can tell like the seeds of friendship. Like at first, you feel like he's using him as like a political pawn, but I can tell like they're gonna start. It's the whole like Last Samurai in a sense. Like this is your enemy, but you're learning from your enemy, and eventually you guys may become best friends or friends. I'm not sure. I never seen the source material, but I want to believe that he's learning from him. He's not just using him right now. It could change, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess all will be revealed. Yeah. And for those people that have read the book, no spoilers for Blue Collar as to what's coming. Thank you. Northern, your overview and what did you like? What didn't you like, if anything? Favorite scene, maybe?
I did like. I'm trying to think now. I'm just earlier, and it's just going off my head. Obviously, I did like the fact that he was confronting his right hand man about whether he might be betraying him or not, and I'm just getting the names up now.
Yeah, the names of some of the kind of lower lords. It's quite hard to keep track of everyone. I do feel like I need a chart at times.
Yeah, but we know who he is. He almost tried to off himself near the cliffs on the first episode, so I'll just call him his right hand man just to keep things simple. But
I'll get a picture of him up in a sec. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Not that guy.
No, not that guy. Is
that guy? That's the one you mean?
That's him. Yeah.
Yes, that guy. That character called that guy. That's the one.
Yeah, and I did also like it when the woman's husband sacrificed himself. I mean, he just took on a whole horde. He just did not care, and everyone was like, "We need to go back for him," and he's like, "No," and he accepts his fate. He doesn't ask for anyone to. He doesn't beg for help. Anything. He just says, "I'm going to go out like a fucking boss." And I like characters that do that.
That's also part of the culture as well. I think that if you're a warrior, the honorable death is the best way for you to go, isn't it? A bit like the Valkyrie.
Mariko's husband. That's it. Mariko's husband.
Very good.
Yeah.
Was there anything you didn't like about it? Any criticisms at all?
I think there was one bit during the battle that I did get a little bit confused, where one of them was like, "Are they fighting each other?" And I was like, "Did I miss anything?"
Yeah, it was a little bit confusing, but I suppose it was supposed to be confusing, but yeah.
Yeah, because I think it was the older guy. What's his name? Toda Hiromatsu. I think I think because he didn't know that Taranga was there and that he's aligned himself with Shogun Blackthorn. So yeah, I'm just rewatching it now to try and see if I did miss anything, and I might have done. I think that might have been the bit I missed.
There's
some
a lot
soldiers
of
realised. Yeah,
there's a lot of plotting and double plotting going on. It is difficult to miss some of the. Everybody's got an agenda in this show.
Yeah.
Even though people are allied with each other, everyone's got their own agenda. I like that. It's quite like
I like
very.
John Blackthorn's insults as well. I like how John Blackthorn insults people. What did he say to the Spanish at the ship clashing scene? I'm trying to remember now.
Something rude.
Yeah, I'll get it up because I'm watching it now. Let's see if we can skip to that bit now.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, we'll jump onto our next guest, Leroy. Your overview of this episode. Anything? Favorite scene?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, man.
That's right.
I was gonna give it a 9 out of 10, but after watching it halfway through for a second time today, I'm giving it a full 10 out of 10. Sorry, I disagree with you about this being the weakest episode. I think I'm not gonna say it's the strongest episode, but what I liked about it is a lot more action. And I agree with that. Everyone seems to have an agenda, but in Lord Taranaga's case,
just to be clear, I don't think it's a weak episode.
Right.
If I'm going to put them in running order, my favorite episode is probably the second one, then the first one, then the third one.
Yeah, I have to say the first two episodes are my favorite ones. Yeah. But as far as everyone having an agenda, as far as Lord Taranaga is concerned, I think I can't hold it against him because his life is on the line, his family's life's on the line. So I can't. And again, I believe that his sole purpose is to protect the young man until he grows up, becomes of age to take his role as Taiko. So, like I said, I never read the book. I saw the 1980s Shogun only once. That was in the 90s. So I could be wrong. As far as Blackthorn is concerned, he's still being a you-know-what, but I like the banter between him and Rodriguez. It kind of reminds me of how sometimes me and my cousin Nate and I go at each other sometimes. It's like a friendly rivalry between the two. And Rodriguez proved to be an honorable man because Blackthorn did save his life, and he repaid the debt by allowing him to escape. So you really can't fault that. Other than that, like I said, I think this episode, like I said, I was going to give it a 9 out of 10, but after seeing it again for a second time today, 10 out of 10 seems fair.
Yeah, okay. I've only seen the episode once, so I'm going to watch it again. I saw some of it, but didn't get all the way through the second time because phone calls and things occurred. Darth, what are your overthoughts of episode 3?
The difference between all these episodes is it's like a fine, close thing, as Wellington might have said.
Yeah,
they're very different. There's not much difference in the quality of the episodes. It's so minute that I feel guilty trying to rate them. So, like I say, a 9.1 or a 9.2 or a 9.3. They're all good episodes. If I had to choose, I'd probably say I'd rather watch episode 1 and 2 again than 3. If I had to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sold on the Blackthorn actor. I think I prefer the Chamberlain portrayal better, especially in regards to when they were leaving the castle. The 1980 version is much more entertaining in how they did that.
Yeah, I mean, it is more entertaining, but I don't know. I just found this, because of the tone of this show, I don't think if he'd gone that way with it, it would have worked, because everything about this show, tone-wise, is different.
I agree. I like how he made the. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But I like how Blackthorn managed to distract the guards than the Chamberlain's version, because Chamberlain's version sounds a little buffoonery, comedic, This one was a bit more serious.
Darth, go on.
Okay, it was comedic. That's true, but it wasn't just comedic, because by changing the scene, you erased the part where Ishida was going to shoot him with the arrow. Ishida's not even in this scene, and Mariko's blocking him from doing that. So they took that scene out, and I think that was important for their character development. So
yeah, no, that bit missing is a good point. Actually, I agree with you there.
Yeah, that's a big. Yeah, that changes things. And also, they also changed things around a little bit between the book version. What they did is they sort of took the difference between the book and the 1980 version. In the book version, Ishida actually shows up twice because he suspects something. He meets them when they're gathering, and then he shows up again at the gate because obviously he suspects something.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought that the scene was done better here in the new version compared to the 1980 version, except for the part that I just mentioned, where they diminish the character, the characterization. That's just what I have to say about it off the top of my head. There's more I could say about it when we get to it.
Okay. Thank you for finding that, Northern. You black-eyed son of a shit-fested whore. Actually, I could have said that to somebody today. Vincent Vega it's going to be one of those shows where watching the new episode, then the beginning from episode 1 until you rewatch the new episode weekly. Yeah, pretty much. It is that good.
You got to start making notes on this, don't you, occasionally, because there's so much going on.
I did make notes.
Yeah.
There's people asking about the budget. It's rumored to be 250 million. However, you've got to also take into account the delays and the fact that initially production started with it going with a view of it shooting in Japan. I think that's probably more likely to have been 300. It's definitely not less. So you're looking at a decent sized budget for this show, and it's a big show. A lot of characters.
300 million, a decent sized budget
for 2024.
It's a decent sized budget for this show. Yeah, I would say absolutely.
I mean, if you figure it's
300, that's about 30 million. I think there's 10 episodes, right?
Yeah, 10 episodes.
30 million an episode. That's, a lot of good feature films were made for 30 million.
Well, for what I've seen right now, it's worth every penny.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And not to mention, we do, Lance made a Masters of the Air comparison, but that had a budget of almost 300 million, and its less episodes also there's a lot less footage per episode as well.
Yeah,
because this show doesn't have 15 minutes of credits neither.
No, and this shows they're clearly not worrying about a running time. They're like, okay, this one's going to be 67 minutes. This one's going to be 54 minutes. And the length feels right. It feels like, okay, I got a 3-course meal there. Masters of the Air feels like I had some hors d'oeuvres and then I was in the Willy Wonka factory and someone gave me a jelly baby for dessert. What's happening here? So,
Lance, I'd be very surprised based off the first 3 episodes we've all seen so far. This is my opinion. I'd be very surprised if this miniseries does not get nominated for an Emmy or a Golden Globe.
Yeah, it may well do, but it's fallen at it's come out at a weird time. It's a bit late it's too late for this year, and it technically could be forgotten by next year.
And I'm liking this guy. I mean, his loyalty.
This is my favorite character.
Yeah,
I said it last week.
I have to say he's becoming my favorite character because of his loyalty and his character alone. He's an honorable person. His loyalty to Lord Toranaga, to me, that makes him an ultimate good guy. And also, while I love how he comforted his granddaughter after she received the ashes of her husband and son, husband and baby. This was his great grandchild, so I know that could have been easy for him. Neither.
Darth, what's this character's name in the book?
Hiramatsu.
Is he as prominent in the book? Does he do the same things in the book?
No. This The current version is very much upgrading his character.
Do you know what? I bet because when he's on screen, you can't take your eyes off him. He's got amazing presence, this actor, and I bet the producers were looking at the early rushes of him and going, "Shit, he's great. Let's get more of him. Can we give him another scene?" You know, that sort of stuff happens, and he's really good. I'm glad he's got more than is in the book.
I don't know who mentioned Mariko's husband Buntaro. I wanted to say that my feelings about him as a character is mixed. Like, I understand, I don't like how he treats his wife, even though I understand it, because in that culture, women are second-class citizens, and he's like the head of the household. So he rules with an iron fist. Today, we would call that an abusive husband. But
yeah, but it's a different culture and a different time period. Therefore, it's accurate, Leroy. You got to remember that.
Yeah,
as he's killing a kid.
I'm not forgetting that. But how he treats his son, I could definitely understand. He's trying to toughen him up.
Is this the guy we're talking? Is this the guy we're talking about? Is it this guy?
No, not him. Mariko's husband, Buntaro.
Oh, is that the one that the one who?
Himself.
Oh yeah, the one who sacrificed himself.
Yeah,
the guy with the bow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, him. Yeah.
And it like I said, it wasn't until when he realized that Lord Toranaga was with them, he basically showed his true colors and where his loyalty stood. So, like I said, my emotions about him was mixed, but I can understand. Like I said, like you mentioned, different culture, different time.
Yeah.
I also understand how he treats his son, because he's trying, like what we would say today, he's trying to toughen him up, try to make him be a man, because he feels his wife babies their son, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, I get your point. It's interesting. Blue, who's your favorite character and why? And any other thoughts?
I mean, I'll be careful I say it. Like, I do still love I keep forgetting bad with names, but Toranaga,
Toranaga.
Yeah, Toranaga. But I do like Blackthorn only in the sense that not just because he's the only Caucasian in the show, but it's the fact that he's very, very astute and very aware. Like this guy from episode 1, he doesn't understand their language. Obviously, very quickly he's picking up on like hi, how to say row. He very quickly knows when to bow. He understands the respect system, and he doesn't always know what they're saying, but he understands mannerisms. In this episode, this guy, that entire sequence when they're going through checking like the taxis in a sense, and just he's looking around, he sees what's going on, and just in that whole outburst he has, I'm like, what is this guy, a moron? Why does he have an outburst for? That outburst in hindsight was a big distraction, and he knew this. And I'm like, this guy is on point. He knows what's going on with being a stranger in a foreign land.
Yeah,
that's different from the original, by the way. In the original, he was actually kind of he was more of a buffoon.
Okay,
that's like I said. That's why I like this version better.
Yeah,
he's playing the nobleman, isn't he? Faking the nobleman to women.
Yeah, and even like the very last scene when he gets offered the title and he's like, I'm still translate, I'm still just I'm not a pirate. You know what? Then it's a good honor. At this point, it's like, dude, okay, listen, they all know you're a pirate. They get it and stuff. Stop trying to play the whole I'm a merchant bullshit because they can smell it. And like, you know what? Then forget it. Okay, you know, I know that you know. Okay, let's just move on. So
yeah, that's a departure from both the book and the original series, though, because he really was a traitor. They weren't pirates.
Oh, okay.
Right, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they adapted that for this book. It's almost like they're saying, well, they were armed, so obviously they were looking for trouble. Well, that doesn't follow.
So, Blue, your favorite two characters are Anjinson and Toranaga.
I mean, that guy. I mean, the dude just such a veteran actor, and he's just when he picks up a sword, the guys, I love him.
I feel like Darth could rock this outfit actually, man. We could. And you're at the right angle right now, Darth. If you tilt your head down a little bit, and we took a snapshot of you, we could put your head on top there. That could be you. That could be you. Yeah. I reckon you could rock that outfit, man. I love that costume.
Yeah.
The costumes are just so good, and I like the way. I don't know. They've almost done them like each one says something about their personality a little bit as well. There's a lot of detail like that. I think so.
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Lance, go back. That was Lord Tornaga's son.
Yeah.
He strikes me as someone who's trying to understand his father. I mean, he doesn't trust the guy who's scheming, but then finally the man confesses to his father what he wants and stuff like that. I mean, so he kind of reminds me of like how we all were young when we're growing up trying to understand.
Well, he won't bring his son into the full picture of his schemes because he knows his son is not a mature and experienced tactician yet. He's still got all that youthful energy, and he'll run his mouth off, which means, so he's saying, why don't you trust me, father? And he's basically saying, because you're not ready yet. But he doesn't say it in those words, but that's what he's he's trying to be sort of tactful.
In fact, this is just my opinion. I think the entire episode, instead of the entire episode be called Tomorrow is Tomorrow, it should be called Keep Your Enemies Close and Your Friends Closer, because that's what Lord Tornaga seems to be doing.
But unfortunately,
that's what I would name the episode.
It's cool. So if you look at his costume, this suggests leader, but not necessarily someone who's seeking riches, right? But if you look at this guy's costume is the diplomat, very unthreatening because it's like a floral pattern, right? And then if you go to Ishido's, very, very I want to be king. This screams I want to be king. To me. So
just look at the expression on his face, man.
Yeah, I know, right? What a great he's a great actor, this guy as well. And I'm glad he's not going too full on with his villainness. He could be a pantomime villain, and the anger's just with him all the time. You can see the anger, the greed, it's always there. This actor doesn't need to do much to show us that. You know, he's all over that. Northern, what about you? Who's your favorite character so far?
Well, I don't want to say Taranga and Black Phone because these are two really great, interesting characters played by very good actors. But I don't kind of like Rodriguez a little bit. He's kind of a dodgy fuck, but he's kind of funny, and I kind of want to have a drink with him. I don't, even though I probably wouldn't be best to trust him.
Well, yeah, be careful what he might put in your drink.
Yeah.
Let's see if we've got a Rodriguez picture.
I hate the captain.
This guy's that's not Rodriguez.
He's a dick.
No, that's Rodriguez.
He's a dick, him though. This guy.
That's the other guy.
Like him at all.
Yeah. He's pretty.
Yeah,
pretty mean.
No, the original guy was better because he was such a weasel. That guy.
Yeah. The other actor, I know who you're talking about. Was very good in that part. It actually might be quite interesting just to that this guy really looks like Jeffrey Rush. I don't know if it is him, but
no, it's not. But he looks familiar. If he's who I'm thinking he is, he's been in a lot of movies.
Most of the cast are of pretty top quality caliber. How are we all feeling about the lady?
Mariko?
Yeah, she's pretty. She's cute.
She's not only drop dead gorgeous. I liked how she, when they were attacked, the fight scene in this episode, how she stepped up to the plate and basically was basically fighting off their attackers. I mean, that I thought that was pretty badass.
Yeah, and that's in the book too.
That's in the book.
Yeah, she does pick up a weapon during the night attack, but I don't think she actually uses it. She stays close to the palanquin. She doesn't actually go run off and attack people.
Yeah,
but I'm glad they adopted that part. As far as I don't know if you were going to ask me or not, but my favorite character is Yabu.
Who's Yabu?
Sorry, Darth. Yeah, I was coming on to you, buddy. Yabu. Which character's that?
Yabusha, the guy that Toranaga was watching the sunset with at the beginning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. They definitely polished his villainy for this series.
Right. Well, cool. I'll get a shot of him up in a second. Gucci's vote is in on Mariko Tamari's hot.
Yeah.
It's 4 flames out of 4 on the scale. So Yeah,
Goose got good taste.
The original series captain was aristocratic, opportunist, weasel with connections. The current one is like the Harbour Goon. He's supposed to be the governor of Maceo and a viceroy.
Macau.
That's interesting. Macau. Sorry. Thank you very much for correcting me. I need to get those things. I think we should have a look, and I'm going to get the cast list up for the original, and we'll have a quick look at some of those original cast members and do a little compare and contrast. Because I'm a big fan of a couple of the actors that were in the original show.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, especially the various kind of meddling priests. They really did cast those well.
Lance, I want to talk about the priest for a second. Like Martin, I'll just call him Martin. His benefactor or his boss, to me, represents the misuse of or the corruption of religion throughout history. I know it's from our last podcast, we talked about how wars have started over religion and stuff like that. And like Martin absolutely believes in doing the right thing, and he wants to keep, when Lord Toranaga offers to build a church in Edo, Martin, from what I've seen, definitely wants to keep his end, but his boss is like, no, we're not speaking up for him. I mean, it's like they preach, like it's like the hypocrites in the church. They preach one thing, but they secretly do another.
I really liked that scene actually, because it was really clever the way, it started off like, no, we're not going to back him under any circumstances. That's against God. And he mentions the church, and then he says, but of course, we may pray for him and see if through prayer the appropriate outcome presents itself, or words to that.
Well, the guy said that we're not gonna, something about bribery. So I'm like, bribery? That's what these guys been guilty of doing that since the beginning of the show.
Yeah, it's I mean, they're just very duplicitous, aren't they? Basically, let me get I think
it depends on who you talk to. There were people like that, no doubt, who acted like that, but there were also people, including the Jesuits, that took a lot of offense to stuff like that. Now, I remember reading about a guy in Japan around 1570, where one of the Portuguese ships, the Black Ship, actually sank, and it took a lot of the silk with it. And he actually celebrated that, and the reason why he celebrated that, because he recognized that the Jesuit movement over there was becoming too comfortable with the economics that was going down, and some of the people were benefiting from that, and he wanted to get them away from that and go back to what they were supposed to be doing, and that is the Great Commission. And that's, so there were people who were like that. On the other hand,
but they were probably few and far between. That's the problem. I mean, throughout history, there were, and I'm speaking as a Bible believing Christian myself, but also as a history buff, there were people both in and out of the church who had no problem standing up for what is right, standing with people that the church wouldn't even associate with. And unfortunately, they were few and far between.
That was pretty common. That was a common view of the church by the time of, say, 1450. By 1450, everyone knew that the church was basically just a racket. It was like Chicago in the 20s. You joined the police to get in on the take. And that's just how it was. And everyone knew that was the case. This is 1600. Everybody knew it was the case. In fact, when Martin Luther wrote his thesis and nailed it to the door, the Protestant Reformation, that was his number one complaint, was the corruption of the money of the church.
I don't doubt that that's the case. I'm just trying to find, right, this actor, by the way, is still alive. He's still alive. So this actor, Damien Thomas, is still alive. I've written to him. I'm trying to get him to come on the show. He's in his 80s. But he's still alive. He's a great actor. He's a classic English stage actor, did a lot of theatre. I'm not... Have we met his equivalent in this show yet? Darth? Have we met the
Yes.
same character?
Well, yeah, he's been. What do you mean? He's been talking for the first 3 episodes.
So
I think
I
that's
know, but I just
Martin.
want to get them clear in my head because they all look very different in this show. Everything looks different. So,
Well, the biggest difference between this portrayal and what we have now is the guy we have now. He has a tonsure, and I'm not sure the Jesuits did tonsure.
is he the character in the middle in this scene?
No, he's Martin.
He's the guy on the left.
If memory serves,
He's the guy. He's the guy on the left. Okay, all right.
yeah, Tommy Barstow, who plays Martin.
Right.
Yeah, Martin.
But the guy in the middle, that's the guy I was talking about, who I do not like because he's corrupt.
Very well. I mean that this scene was really good. I really like this scene.
Yeah, that's the father. That's the father visitor. He was probably there for. Yeah, they didn't send people like that over there unless there was a big problem with what was going on.
So
I don't know what
Damien Thomas played Father Alvito in the 1980s version. So that's Father Alvito on the left. Same character.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Because you're using the first name, and it's not clear to me who's who compared to the 80s version because the portrayals are very, very different. The dialogue's different. The scenes are different. You know, here, for example, Martin very evidently comes across, very lowly in rank compared to his counterparts. His performance is very meek, etc., etc. Damien Thomas's performance is the complete polar opposite of that. He comes across as very regal, as very pious. He's got a commanding authority, even in the scenes with the other priests that he's in. I actually thought he was the top dog priest in the 80s version. So I would never have said that those two characters were the same people.
Yes, and the other guy was also better. The guy that acted like the father visitor, he acted like a genuine prince. And those people were called princes of the church. So,
so the one in the middle in this shot, is that Father Sebastio?
That's supposed to be the father visitor.
The father visitor. So okay, the captain of the ship in the 80s version was played by a wonderful actor called Vladek Scheibel, and this guy always played sort of seedy bad guys, and you'll recognize him from a million things, especially James Bond movies. Who's the guy?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
I never. That's awesome.
He's been in like loads of stuff. So that's him from. I don't know BIM Stars, but I feel that's a film we should definitely review at some point. There he is pretending to be Inspector Clouseau. That's his kind of typical role, mad scientist with needle, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, he was in absolutely loads of stuff. Done everything from like Star Trek to Man from U.N.C.L.E., all those kinds of shows. So yeah, and a fair number of movies as well. But yeah, $1 Billion Brain. That's an interesting film. We should review that at some point.
Richard Chamberlain.
The only guy who could play chess and look creepy doing it.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that about Richard Chamberlain?
He's still alive. I think he lives in Hawaii now.
He is still alive. I haven't tried to get him on for an interview. I suspect that's pretty unlikely. But
and Lance, I was wrong. Toshiro Mifune, who played Lord Toranaga in the original, he died in 1997. I thought he died in 89. That was my mistake.
Right. Okay. Well, I know he's passed away.
That sucks.
Yeah. So
he was a veteran actor, a long-time veteran actor by 1980.
Yeah.
He also played a great role in the Charles Bronson movie called Red Sun.
That was a good movie. In fact, that's the only other movie I've seen him in. Shogun and Red Sun. And I liked him in Red Sun.
Have you not seen The Seven Samurai?
Nope.
God damn, man. You need to watch that. That's like a must movie for everyone.
Wasn't that another inspiration for the Magnificent Seven?
Well, yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right.
And also 40 Ronin.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you need to watch that. I watched Red Sun last year around this sort of time. last year, and I remember seeing it when it was on TV, and it's quite nuts. It's like, ninja plus cowboy will travel sort of movie. That looks like a miniature, but is actually a real set. So there's various stills. Back in the days when anyone could play an Indian, just stick a headdress on them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Make sure they're a bit tanned, and have them say
and Mexicans.
Yeah. There he is, stepping off the train, looking really inconspicuous. This film had it's got a pretty it's got some pretty good set pieces and some pretty funny moments. And a lot of the actors that play cowboys.
This was a funny scene.
Yeah, Charlie Bronson, of course. Yeah, that scene was good.
Yeah, that scene was funny.
So I don't want to go down a rabbit hole too much, but it's 9 years before the original Shogun TV series. You can get it on. I think it's available on DVD. I believe so.
My dad has Red Sun on VHS. That's how I watched it when I was growing up.
Do you still have that copy? That could be worth something now,
I'll ask my dad. It's at his house. He has it.
Joe K says the major difference with the 80s show is the lack of those quality character actors with long theatre careers. The priest in jail in the original show was magnificent. Yeah, the priest.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that last week. Yeah,
that priest was played by Michael Hordern, who, yeah, you're right. He's a classic, classically trained RADA actor, huge veteran of British stage, film, and television. Many people might remember him from Where Eagles Dare, where he's the guy on the other end of the phone. Broadsword calling Danny boy. He's the guy that sends them on the mission in Where Eagles Dare. That's Michael Hordern. So he is good. These priests are okay. I quite like the guy that plays Martin, because he's playing him very differently. I don't want to see exactly the same take on these characters. It's quite good that we're getting something different, but they were very well cast in the 80s version. They did stand out. Everyone's hidden behind beards and ruffles here, so it's a lot of ruffle action.
I think this version, I don't know if we talked about it in the last podcast, but I think this version of Shogun is more authentic, not just from a Japanese point of view, but even from a European point of view as well. As far as clothes and mannerisms and stuff like that.
Darth, we're 3 episodes in, and of everyone here, you're the one who's read the book 20 times. How are you finding this compared to the 80s version thus far? And you're muted, sir. You're muted. Might need to recap that.
There you go, buddy.
Thank you. The first thing I'll mention is they changed. I wanted to get this out before I forget it. They changed how, in the 1980 version and the book version, that Yabu was actually involved in the ninja attack at the castle. Because he was involved in that, and Toranaga suspected that. And so in the old version, the 80 version, when they had that meeting, they meet the sunset. That's also in the 1980 version. I think the way they did it in the new series is actually better. I think the scene now is actually better, but they just kind of dropped that other part about the ninja thing. As a humorous detail in the book, in that scene, and they left it out for obvious reasons. When they reach their agreement, they get up and they piss together. Apparently, that's how they sealed an agreement.
Wow. Wow.
That could so easily go wrong if you were doing a high stakes negotiation.
I like the withdrawal from the castle in the new version better than the old version. The old version was almost like they were. It was almost like they were trying to save money, so they just had some guys shoot some arrows, and that was it. That was about. You saw some arrows flying around. That was it. So what they did here was actually pretty good. I have 2 problems, however, with what they did now compared to 1980 and the book. They didn't have the fight at the ship. In this version, they just walked up to it. In the original version, there was a fight. So I guess in the current version, they didn't want to have a fight twice. I can understand that. So they had to fight somewhere else instead of at the ship. Okay, but they left out that awesome scene where Toranaga does the slow walk, and the fireworks are going off. He does this. He just kind of walks out there, kind of like this, in the original version.
Yeah.
And they left that out here on Will. That's a shame. Last thing I'll mention is the Black Ship version. Okay, I like the original version better when they're negotiating on the Black Ship, but the first time I watched it, I thought, no, I like the action scene better in the original. But after watching it a second time, I think, okay, I think I see where they're going with this. It's actually kind of a neat scene where they have the Black Ship and the barge or whatever it is, whether side by side, going out the harbor. That's actually a good scene. More I think about that.
Okay, thanks for that, Darth.
But it's very different from the original and the book. What you saw in 1980 was much closer to the book.
Okay.
And also the other thing they left out is Blackthorn went onto the Black Ship. So he was on the Black Ship, and Rodriguez had some guy just kind of throw him off the boat, which is a very humorous scene. They completely left that out here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I remember that. Is Father Alvito closer to the character in the book in the 80s version or this version?
The book by far, 1980.
1980. Okay, all right, interesting. All right, I want to wrap this up by 11, so we're like I said, we're just going to run for an hour today. So Blue, give me your final thoughts on the show so far, and overall, where's the show so far out of 10 for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd say 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10. I'm very close to Leroy saying 10, but I'll be forgiving, shave some stuff off because I haven't read the book and the source material, but I do see people's small criticisms. But like you said, still a fantastic show. I treat this as like I said, a weekly movie I'm looking forward to. I mean, we're only in March of 2024, but so far for me, the only show I'm looking forward to watching, my favorite show so far of the year. I mean, it's only 3 episodes in, but I can't see the next 7 episodes going downhill. I just see it being this good, and everybody agrees the budget. Not sure what the budget is, but it looks expensive. It looks authentic, and yeah, I mean, eventually I'll read the book now after watching the show. But I'm gonna wait until the show is over because I don't want to do that. Well, the show did this, or in the 1980s version did that, because then you start nitpicking small things. So
sure. Okay, Leroy, same question, mate.
Like I said earlier, I mean, all 3 episodes, 10 out of 10. But I do agree with you, Lance. I'd say the first 2 episodes were better than this one. But what I like about this one is more action, and some of the characters who I was very critical of in the first 2 episodes, like Blackthorn, he's and Mariko's husband, are showing a lot more redeeming qualities, and Blackthorn is becoming a lot less of a you-know-what than he was in his first 2 episodes. So, and far as I know, Toranaga hasn't changed. It's whatever agenda he has, it's for the benefit of his ward. So he doesn't strike me as someone who wants power. He strikes me as someone who just wants to survive for the sake of the heir until the heir comes of age. Then he wants to retire, live out his life. But definitely 10 out of 10.
Okay, thank you for that. Northern, your same question, mate.
I'll give it 8 out of 10. The characters are still very interesting, and it does look like it's really building up to something. So, and it's still early in the season before I can really come to a proper conclusion on the series itself. But so far, it's intriguing. It's not boring me. It seems to be much better, well put together than Masters of the Air is at the moment. So, yeah.
And Darth.
Overall positive experience. The only thing that I'm going to add, because I don't want to sound like I'm being too critical of the new show, is The conversation between Blackthorn and Mariko toward the end of the episode was actually really beautiful. I don't remember that in the book. It might have been in the book, but when they were talking about his family that he'd left behind, that he had a kid that he'd never met, that's pretty powerful. And also they had in the book the part where they're jumping into the water. That was in the book too. I'm surprised they actually adopted that scene, but I'm glad they did. It was actually kind of a nice scene.
Yeah, it's not a scene on paper that would jump out at you as a screenwriter adapter, and you go, God, we've got to have the diving scene. I think that's better than the scene with the 500 guys beating each other up. We've got to have the diving. I was also waiting for him to come back out and then say, "Forgive me, my lord, my loincloth appears to be floating off into the sunset." There's no way his costume would have stayed on and endured so many diving episodes. They would have been doing it naked if it was real. I mean,
They were naked in the book.
Yeah, sure, exactly. But, you know,
and also Kiku apparently was there too. I'm not sure how that happened. I may not be remembering that right. Come to think of it, I just remember that right after that scene in the book,
Dan Candy says Toranaga did a belly flop first. Don't know if that was in the book, but that sounds like that would have been fun. It would have been really funny if he'd done a bomb, if he'd done knees up to the chin and
cannonball.
Yeah, that would have been great. Toranaga does a cannonball. Yeah, there you go. Dan says it's in the book. He kind of does and Drew's saying he does a belly flop. Sassy Sasquatch, we see you in the chat. How are you? Big hugs. Do go and support her channel. Give her a like and a subscribe. Also, we're trying to get the Gourd King up to 1,000. I saw Not Michael Sarah. There he is in the chat earlier, hiding, taking a break from set. So, yeah, do help out the Gourd. He's nearly at, only needs 30 more subscribers. 30 to go, and he's at 1,000. So, yeah, I'm overall for the show so far. It's 9.5 out of 10 for me. First episode was a 10. Second episode 9.5. This episode is a 9. So, yeah, and I'm going to watch it again in a bit now that there's no daylight outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. So we're going to wrap things up there. A little bit of a shorter episode than normal. But I have some other commitments and also want to do a gaming stream because it's been a bit of a stressful day. So just remains for me to say thanks to everyone in the chat for taking part. We're going to do this again next week with episode 4. Thank you, Owen Howard, for popping on. Appreciate that. Don't forget to join us. If you have any comments, questions, etc., do chuck them in. We're back on, where are we now? We're Wednesday today, so we're back on Sunday with 2 streams. We're doing Cocoon at 6 o'clock UK time with a couple of guests who've never seen it. So
I've seen it. I can't remember the last time I even saw that movie.
Garth, I think you told me you haven't seen it, right?
I saw that movie in a theater way back in the day.
I'm thinking of it. I think I'm thinking of someone else. There's a couple of we've got Anti-Derivative Jill coming on, and we've got Culture Casino, I think, coming on. Retro Nerd.
Some of those actors are dead, aren't they? From Cocoon.
Yeah, all the old cast, not the young cast, but the old cast, yes. So yeah, I was talking about YouTubers that are coming on for the stream who have never seen the film and are watching it for the first time. So it's actually a watch party. But we're not going to be sitting there quietly. We will be talking all the way through the watch party. We ask guests to watch the film first before they come on so they can watch it undisturbed, and then we can talk about it as we're showing it. So that's at 6 o'clock. Masters of the Air is at 9 o'clock. Then we'll be back with the Nielsen ratings on Tuesday. Don't forget, coming up, we have, of course, a full in-depth review of The Thing, the musical. And in fact, they sent us a clip of one of the songs just the other day. Yes, you can hear the full version of that song on that stream where we review The Thing, the musical, featuring a cast of Muppets, some of who are coming on the channel, along with the producer, Hamilton the Second. No, hang on, his full name was Hamilton the First and the Third. Good to have him back on the channel again, along with one of the technical advisors for the film and a couple of the cast. So that's going to be quite special or quite special needs, one or the other.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that. That's it from me and my guests for tonight. We will see you all again real soon.
Yeah.